Hello and welcome to Madden and Benz Unfiltered, brought to you by Rush to Crush, the Rush to Crush Cancer Bike Ride in May. Mark and I have been talking about it for weeks now. Glad that you're with us and glad that they are with us as we have plenty to talk about today. So let's dive right into it. By the way, the Rush to Crush Bike Ride is May the 19th. To register, go to rushtocrushcancer.org and help us in the fight against cancer. Join the ride. Mark, maybe Russell Wilson will be part of the Rush to Crush Cancer Bike Ride. Do you think he's willing to do it?
I'm shocked that they signed him still. And people are looking at the $1.2 million price tag as a positive. First off, why do you care how they spend their money?
It's nutting-esque. The reaction to the Steelers signing Russell Wilson so far is like when the Pirates fans celebrate a bargain basement signing.
Right.
It's really weird.
Kirk Cousins at $30 million and Russell Wilson at 1.2. Kirk Cousins, you're getting 30 touchdowns and 4,000 yards. But I can't believe they signed him at any price. But the price tag makes it a weird situation because they'll actually be spending more on Kenny Pickett than they will Russell Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's going to be really mad. Either Kenny Pickett's going to be really mad that the Steelers betrayed him and brought in another quarterback and he just jumps into the starting role, or Russell Wilson will have been duped and will ultimately ride the bench because there's nothing invested. They don't have to play him. I tend to think they brought Wilson in to start. We're going to hear all that BS about a competition when they officially announce it. Wednesday, I guess, is the earliest it becomes official. But somebody's going to be really mad, and I am here for it. I think it's going to be epic, classic.
Well, Mark, we all knew Russell Wilson was going to be available. We all knew Justin Fields was going to be on the trade market. We all knew Kirk Cousins was going to be a free agent. I don't know why, if they had any intention whatsoever of exploring any of these avenues, and my guess is Russell Wilson wasn't the only one they explored, why they spent so much time and effort pushing all their chips into the Kenny Pickett pile. Was it that they had that little faith they could pull off bringing anybody else?
That's easy, Tim. They're just badly managed. They're badly coached. They're badly everything. It's a crap organization right now. It just is. No playoff wins in 7 years. That's a crap organization. And I think there's a lot of lying going on because they lie.
Oh, my God. Yeah, there already has been with what they've done with Pickett. There already has been.
They've often said, Tim, they should change their colors to brown and gold because they're that full of crap. Have they told Wilson he's definitely the starter? Have they told Pickett he's definitely the starter? Have they told both that there's going to be a competition, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and each thinks he's the starter? They lie all the time. They lied to LeGarrette Blount about his role to get him to Pittsburgh. They lied to James Harrison about his role to get him back to Pittsburgh. They lied to Mitch Trubisky about how long he'd be starting. They said he'd have at least through the bye week a couple years back. They lied about Bruce Arians retiring. They lie all the time.
Don't forget about Melvin Ingram. Don't forget about Mason Rudolph, too. If I'm Mason Rudolph, I get Kenny and Russell on a on a group text and send them a text saying, you know how this competition is going to go, right?
Well, yeah, but every athlete believes in himself. So every athlete believes the story he wants to, which is why, like I said, I think this is just headed to massive heartbreak.
For who?
One or the other.
How about for the fan base?
I don't think this is a transformative signing. I think it's a good signing.
You don't, do they? I think too many people are already making too much of what it could be.
I don't think they're even a lock to make the playoffs with Russell Wilson.
I don't think they are either. I mean, we need to ask ourselves this question.
I think they might.
As of 11:30 yesterday, did they have the fourth best quarterback in the AFC North? Yes. Do they still today? Maybe. If Deshaun Watson's healthy, they still do.
Maybe. Probably. They probably have the worst quarterback in the AFC North. I will say this. If they do get to a playoff game, there's a better chance to win one of those with Russell Wilson than with Kenny Pickett.
I think Russell Wilson is better than Kenny Pickett. I'll say that right now again for the 50th time already since 11:30 last night.
I don't even think it's close. Statistically, it's insanely there's a disparity.
Yeah, well, one area where it's not insanely a disparity is where Russell Wilson threw the ball last year. He was guarded and bracketed in throwing the football the same way that Pickett was. He just did it a little bit better. Look at the numbers that Warren Sharp put out there. He's probably the best statistical analyst in football. 27% of Wilson's passes were behind the line of scrimmage last year. 27%.
No, that's okay, though. I mean, if that's what they want a quarterback to do, the Steelers, then it's better they get a quarterback who's better at it than Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, but we already saw from Rudolph, you can push it down the field and still be successful without putting yourself in harm's way.
Yeah, but you don't have to tell me. Tell them.
Well, I'm trying to tell the fans right now because it's the fans who are taking – like I'm seeing the phrase A-plus value being thrown around.
Yeah,
it's
I don't care about the value. I don't care about the value. You get what you pay.
Quarterback. You don't have to worry about – you shouldn't worry about value with quarterback. You should – if you need to pay for a quarterback, you pay for a quarterback. You don't get a bargain basement guy and tell me how great that is because you can get a slot corner now. And oh, by the way, like I'm already hearing this, well, they got Russell Wilson, so now they can spend freely in free agency. At 11:20 last night, did we think they were going to be a big player in free agency? Like,
no, they're not good. They're the Steelers. They're cheap. But let's establish one thing before we move on here, Tim.
Real quick, Mitch Morse is already off the board, Mark. I mean, like one guy we're focusing on that they need to get is the center.
He's a bum.
Well,
they need to get a real center in the draft. But Tim, let's establish this. Do you feel very confident in saying that either Kenny Pickett or Russell Wilson has been lied to, or it will turn out that one of them has been lied to?
If Pickett's been lied to, he was probably lied to somewhere between January and yesterday. Yeah. Wilson, if he was lied to, he was lied to last night.
You don't think they're still telling Pickett, hey, you're the starter, don't worry about it?
No, I'm just saying that the first time he was lied to was probably when Mike Tomlin was standing in front of the media and was asked, is your starter currently on your roster? And he said, yes.
Do you think that the Steelers reacted to all the outside noise saying that they were insane to put all their eggs in the Pickett basket? Because I do.
No, I just think they were BSing us the whole time. I think
they reacted. I think that a guy like Andy Weidel, for example, who I think is the most knowledgeable football guy they have, including Tomlin. When a guy like Andy Weidel hears Peter King, who is the most reasoned and he slow plays criticism. Mm-hmm. Okay, when he says the Steelers are insane to just have Pickett as the option, I think the Steelers listen.
Yeah, but Mark, when they were planting stories in Indianapolis that they did hear the outside noise and that made them even madder, like that suggests to me that they were aware of it and they were ready to double down.
I think that story was 100% made up.
So you don't even think that she was told, Aditi was told that the coaches felt that way?
Without mentioning names, Tim, I think that story was 100% made up.
So if you were to then go back and look at the timeline for
100%
Wilson,
fictional is probably a better way to put it.
Like, I'm wondering if perhaps they just didn't think they could get Wilson if they wanted him. Like they looked at Wilson's inclination to rather be in New York or Vegas in large part because of the lifestyle component and said, he's going to make the same money wherever he goes. He's going to make 1.2 wherever he winds up, and it ain't going to be here. Like, I wonder if
Tim, that's the point. He's coming here because he knows he's going to play, or rather he's been told he's going to play.
He's been told he's going to play. Yes.
Right, exactly.
But
I heard Ciara is looking at houses in Homestead today.
She going to hang out with Livy Dunn?
Where is she?
And Vanessa Hudgens?
Where is she possibly going to want to live here?
Mark, we have better spouses in Pittsburgh than we do players.
Well, that's not saying much. Hey, Tim, 2 doors away, number 7, a quarterback lived there before.
Oh, Russell Wilson moving into your fine palatial neighborhood. Is that what you're suggesting?
What's Wilson's number?
3.
Right around the corner.
Well, I'm just.
And by the way, Ben bought his house here when he lived, 2 doors from me, because it was number 7, and that's no kidding.
That's like Sidney Crosby-esque.
Yeah, it's worse.
Like whenever Sid gets hitched, just put a little 8 next to the 7. You'll have a new neighbor.
I think Sid probably is happy where he is.
Look, I'm of the opinion that the Steelers went into this whole thing with the impression that they might not be able to do better than Pickett and TBA QB, even if that TBA QB was Rudolph, and circumstances surprised them, and they're going to massage the narrative. But just looking back at how they spoke things up about Pickett, somewhere in their brains, they were thinking we might have to go with this guy again this year, and they were doing whatever they could to talk him up, regardless of how they were going to look in the back end.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's true. But, I mean, it goes to show how they just blurt, how they just aren't – I don't know. I wonder if the left hand knows what the right does as well. But I still think Tomlin has final say, especially in this.
So assuming he does get the starting job, and I am going to assume that because, honestly, if
I think, Tim, I think like an Andy Weidel or an Omar Khan or even Art II might have heard that noise and said, we need to get another guy. But then Tom was the one who said it's got to be Wilson.
Well, what do you make of a guy like Mark Schlereth, for instance, who played in Denver, who still covers Denver sports, ripping the player, but at the same time saying, if there is a good fit, this is the best fit for both sides? I actually kind of think both things are right.
I do too.
He's definitely poking holes.
I think Russell Wilson's a nailed-on prima donna. And I don't think that's going to disappear once he gets here. I don't think Denver humbled him at all. I think he thinks he just got screwed.
I believe a lot of that.
Okay. He had his own staff on site. He had an office instead of a locker. He's married to a pop star. Like I said, he's a nailed-on prima donna. That is not going to change in Pittsburgh. It just isn't. And Tomlin doesn't humble anybody. Look at how that locker has been out of control ever since AB. So it has the potential for a bad situation with Russell Wilson here in Pittsburgh. No question.
Yeah, the last guy who gave himself a nickname like Mr. Unlimited called himself Ronald, and I think we all know how that turned out.
What is Russell Wilson's nickname?
Mr. Unlimited is what he called himself. He did a whole Instagram video of it back in 2018.
See, having watched him last year, he struck me as limited.
In fact, that's the exact word that Mark Schlereth used to describe the whole offense, limited. And he described it as being exactly limited in the same way the Steelers' offense was last year.
I see like hashtag let Russ cook. Where's that come from?
That's an old phrase that's been associated with him since he was in Seattle.
What's he going to cook?
People are saying that because they want to pretend now that the Denver years just didn't exist, that the Steelers are getting the Seattle guy. And Mark, we did this last year. Like, I got excoriated the same way on Twitter 2 years ago when they got Mitch Trubisky. And I was saying you can't just bank everything on the premise that Chicago screwed him up. Matt Nagy's an idiot. Oh, those dumb Bears. Now we're doing it with Nathaniel Hackett and Sean Payton in Denver. It's the same narrative.
Yeah, I mean, you're preaching to the choir. You think Kenny Pickett's mad right now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, even if he does think that there's going to be an open competition, and even if he's inclined to believe that he's going to win that competition, he can't be happy that he's got a guy of this magnitude being the guy who's pushing him, as opposed to Mason Rudolph, who at least he knows and got along with, or Jacoby Brissett, or Ryan Tannehill.
I can't wait to hear what Tomlin and Wilson have to say when he's introduced.
Well, I just don't believe anything Tomlin says at all.
That's
I just,
my point.
You know, I think what you do with Tomlin now when he speaks publicly is just keep notes on what he says to ostensibly throw back at him when he refutes himself a couple weeks or months later, because that's what he's done. He's done 5 times.
I don't listen, because Mike Tomlin would rather climb a tree and lie than stand on the ground and tell the truth. He is, even by NFL coaching standards, he is one of the all-time liars.
It's just, it's funny to me that all of Pittsburgh looked at the Russell Wilson signing in Denver 2 years ago and mocked it and said the Steelers were more prudent and smarter to get Mitch Trubisky because he cost less, and they were laughing at Denver for paying all that money because they thought the quarterback was diminished and was on the downside of his career. Well, he's still diminished and on the downside of his career. He's just cheap now.
Tim, I'm with you. I can't believe that people are so engaged in Russell Wilson costing $1.2 million. Now, the only thing you can say about that is that makes the risk more worthwhile.
Well, there's no risk.
He was not their best option at quarterback.
But Mark, honestly, I'd rather you take a risk at quarterback if you think you're really upgrading at quarterback. And, it didn't work out, but they took a risk when they drafted Pickett in the first round. If you wanted to take a risk on what Russell Wilson, I'm surprised that more people weren't on board with wanting to do it when anybody could have gotten him and Denver just outbid everybody.
I 100% agree. I mean, I don't know. This ends bad. Is that a safe prediction? This ends bad.
I think it ends the same. I think they end 9-10 winish again. I feel no better about their chances of winning multiple games in the playoffs, maybe even one game in the playoffs. You made a good point. I do agree with what you said, that if you get in as a 5 or 6 seed, you might be able to win as a road wildcard team against the AFC South champs or something like that with Russell Wilson.
And I think they're closer to 7 wins than they are to 12, if that makes any sense. I see them as a 9 or 10 win team, but if they're going to ricochet in one direction or the other this coming season, I think it'll go bad, not great.
All right, let's get to the Penguins, Mark, because we have to. They look terrible right now. They look like they're a bad team, and they know it after the trade deadline. This looks like the Pirates in August, not the Penguins in March, like we're used to seeing for the better part of 2 decades. The Guentzel trade. Oh, by the way, quick thing on Guentzel. Rod Brindamore said before last night's game against Calgary that Guentzel is not going to be back in the next day or 2, so that kind of makes it look like Thursday or the weekend before he makes his Carolina Hurricane debut. What'd you think of the trade first and foremost? Because we haven't spoken in this format since.
Well, first off, my first preference is always to talk about the Penguins. They're the only team in Pittsburgh I truly care about. Whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, that's my preference. Second off, I wasn't enamored of the return for Guentzel, but I looked at all the trades for rentals at the deadline, and nobody got much for a rental. It appeared there was an informal policy among the GMs to just not give big return for a player that's going to walk at the end of the playoffs. So given that context, I'm still not enamored of what they got, but it's decent return. I think Bunning is going to be a good winger for Sid. I know some people say he's not good enough to play on that line. He works hard. He gets to the net. He does well down low, and he'll protect Sid every time that's necessary. He's Chris Kunitz light, and I think that's something Sid needs at this point in his career. As far as how they're playing right now, yeah, they're bad. They were great for 2 decades. Maybe it's about time they're bad. I mean, I'm not wallowing in it, but I'm accepting it. Start the process to rebuild.
How much can they rebuild this year?
It's tough when you keep them 4 guys there. It's tough. But I would get a new coach, for one thing. I think that would smack of a rebuild. I just don't think Mike Sullivan will ever adapt how he wants to coach to what he has. And I keep hearing that every team in the league plays fast. Okay, yeah, maybe they do, but we're not fast enough to do that. So I would find a more disciplined, more systematic coach. And if the big 3 can't accept that, then it's time to truly rebuild and ask them if they want out, because you can't make every decision based on what they want. You can't. And they've already gone way in that direction. And I've got no problem with it, but I draw the line at this one.
The rest of the way, Mark, I'd definitely space out the goalies. I'd play Nedeljkovic a lot more. I'd play Tristan Jarry less. I think they're cooking him right now. I think they're going to get him into some bad habits. I think he might get hurt again playing in meaningless games. I would just play.
I'd rather find that out about him now. And if he can't get it together to play meaningless games, then they might as well all be meaningless for him.
I mean, I would have been okay with trading him for some of the reasons you brought up. I mean, he's a decent goalie under a long-term contract.
Yeah, but now he's here. Now he's here for the rest of the season. He's the number 1 goalie. Go to work. Okay, do your job. Play the number 1 workload, which isn't that extensive here anyway.
It doesn't appear like Carlson is someone who really cares about what team he's on. He's mercenary in that regard.
I wrote that in my column today. Erik Karlsson is far too comfortable playing for a bad team, maybe because he always has.
So you think the Penguins can find another team to take on that contract if it doesn't really matter?
No. don't.
Showing his ass the way that he has here in Pittsburgh in that exact regard.
I don't know that he's shown his ass. I just think he is exactly what we probably should have expected. I thought he would add something coming to what was perceived at the time to be a contender. He's exactly as he was.
Yeah, and unfortunately, even the big three are going downhill. Sid's slumping. Somehow Malkin's playing worse. What does he have, like one shot in 3 games or something like that?
He's just done. And unless he has an incredible offseason to rejuvenate himself mentally and physically, he won't do any better next year. I think Sid's just coping with having been on a bad team for the first time ever. Maybe the same with Letang, although Letang's been bad for about, 3 weeks?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Malkin might be done.
Hey, if Russell Wilson throws as many good passes as Chris Letang did to Connor McDavid, the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was bad right away. But what's the difference? You're better losing now anyway.
Eric says, Mark, earlier this season, you thought the Pens, if they missed the playoffs again, Sully would be gone. Recently, you've said you think he might be back. What's happened of late? I don't know if he returns. What's your position now?
Well, my position doesn't matter. It's Fenway Sports Group. I think they'll bring him back, but I would not. And that's no knock on the guy. It's like whenever you say it's time to change coaches, you're perceived as wanting to run that guy out of town. Like when I said they should trade Jake, oh, you want him to get rid of Jake? No, I just think it's the right move for the team.
He's been a hockey coach here since 2015, for God's sakes. Running him out of town, you can't be run out of town when you've been here that long as a hockey coach in any city, for that matter.
Hasn't won a playoff series since 2018, #Hockey Tomlin.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing goes for Tomlin, too. Using
Hockey
that phrase.
Tomlin.
Richard says, I can't see Sullivan returning as coach either way. You see players either checked out or absolutely frustrated with what's going on. He completely lost the locker room, and I don't see him coming back from that.
I can't argue any of that.
By the
way, one thing about Jake, too. One of the most laughable narratives of the whole Jake getting traded thing is well, there's 2, actually. One is the way we're absolutely mourning the loss of a milkshake. It's like a loved one got gunned on in cold blood on your porch during Thanksgiving dinner. We lost the milkshake. What will we do without the milkshake? They can still make the milkshake. I guarantee you go in there and say, hey, can you still make me a Jake shake? They'll do it. It probably has a different name now.
Yeah, well, Mark, you know what it's going to become? It's going to become, you and I both had these in our studio at the X, the Tommy Gun Flakes that became the Jerome Bettis Flakes that became
Flurry Flakes.
The Flurry Flakes, yeah.
Cat's Brightest Crunchers.
Exactly.
Dogger peanut butter.
Yes, exactly. Just change the name on it and keep the same recipe.
That said, the Jake Shakes were better than all of the above. I will say that.
Yes.
Okay, The other thing is the narrative that Jake got hard done by, that they didn't do enough to keep him. Listen, he wanted to stay here. Jake Guentzel absolutely wanted to stay in Pittsburgh at his price. Okay, if he would have signed like for $6 million a year for 8 years, he could have signed that deal a year ago.
RJ says sign Mason. RJ says sign Mason and trade Kenny to the Saints.
Why would the Saints want Kenny Pickett? Why would anybody want Kenny Pickett?
I don't know. And I don't think it's going to happen. Scott says we're missing the big picture. We upgraded Trubisky for less than half. What happens between Wilson and Pickett? Let camp and preseason decide that.
Because this will be a legitimate competition, and all that really matters for the Steelers winning a playoff game was the upgrade for Mitch Trubisky and to save money. Scott, what do you care? I see your haircut. Money's obviously tight with you. I get it. You probably trimmed that thing yourself. I'm no one to talk. But why do you care that they saved money? Why does anybody out there care that they saved money? That boggles my mind. It is, like you said, Tim, Nutting-esque. I always said about Bob Nutting, his biggest trick in Pittsburgh, he made the people care about his money like it was their money, even as he took their money and made it his money.
And again, there was no one saying at 11:20 last night, before Russell Wilson put up his renegade montage on Twitter like he did last night.
Did he really?
Yes, he did. Yes.
Oh,
and he's already changed his avatar, I think, to him in a Steelers uniform, if I saw correctly. But at any rate,
I'm making a familiar motion with my right hand.
My point is there was no one thinking before they gave Russell Wilson $1.5 million and long after they got rid of Trubisky's contract that the Steelers were going to be major players in free agency. Now I keep hearing in advance, well, they got Russ for only 1.5 so they could be major players in free agency. They weren't going to do that. This is just 1.5 less million that they had before yesterday. What are we talking about here?
One thing they're magnificent at, though, Tim, and the Russell Wilson signing is the biggest part of this. They know how to con the marks. They know how to make them feel better moving forward. They know just what to say to make them believe, and where belief isn't apropos.
So, like, if that's the real reason why it's so great that Russell Wilson is going to be the starting quarterback, okay, then go get L'Jarius Sneed. Go get Jordan Poyer. Go get Mitch Morse. You can't. Sorry, he's gone already. Go out and get, I don't know who else, Patrick Queen at inside linebacker instead of the next version of a Landon Roberts. You know, you got him overachieving already. You want another shot at that one? You want to swing and miss on 2 more guys there, or get a real guy? You know, like, show me then. If that's the real reason why this is a good signing, show me.
Hey, who won the Oscars?
Oppenheimer won a lot. Flower Moon got nothing. I think that movie with Emma Stone got some. I didn't see that one at all.
I didn't see any movie. I didn't see any movies last year, I don't think.
I thought De Niro should have gotten Best Supporting Actor for Flower Moon. I mean,
Robert Downey Jr. got Best Supporting Actor, though, and is that his first Oscar?
I think it is.
Well, that's Lifetime Achievement. Who's Cillian Murphy?
That's the guy from Peaky Blinders who played Oppenheimer.
Okay, Emma Stone won Best Actress. What for? I don't know.
It's the movie, I think, with Mark Ruffalo, maybe? I didn't see it.
Well, I went to one movie last year. What was it?
Barbie?
No, God, no. Oh, Iron Claw.
How was that? Did that get nominated for anything?
Zac Efron and Wrestling Tights. Come on, Tim.
What's up here? This is Bobby. You said, Wilson is so bad, I can't understand this at all. Like, I mean, I'm not ready to go there because I still think he's better than Pickett. So they might have a better starting quarterback. Significantly better? Not to the point that I think people are making it out to be. No.
Oh, wait. The cat might join the show. Come on. Come on up here.
What did the cat think of Liverpool yesterday?
Hold on.
Oh, she's angry.
Are you feeling better? You were sick last week a little bit. Are you okay? Wave to people.
How does she think about the Jake Guentzel trade return?
Here, get out of here.
All right.
Yeah, Liverpool tied City. I mean, great game. Wish we would have won. Still tied for first. We'll be all right.
You're going in 3 weeks?
Yes.
Can't
wait.
Bill says the Steelers should win an Oscar for portraying a contender. That's not a bad line, actually.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin, best lead in a feature film.
I'm depressed now. I need to go to more movies. I feel like I'm not living life. I still haven't seen Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer's pretty good. It's a lot of time hopping. I want to
see the Holdovers, too.
Oh, that's the other one I was thinking of, the Holdovers. Yeah, I mean, that got nominated for a bunch.
Yeah,
a lot of people thought
it won like nothing, though, right?
A lot of people thought Giamatti should have won instead of Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer.
But how often does anybody win stuff for a comedy?
Is the Holdovers that much of a comedy, or is there like meaning there? Are you talking about Barbie?
No, Holdovers.
Okay, I didn't know that was.
So did Barbie win any Oscars? I hope not.
I don't think it did. Well, I don't know. I don't know what it won for, like, costume design and all that crap. I don't know. But I don't think it won any of the majors. Like, the fact that Margot Robbie didn't get nominated, to me, was a joke. Like, everybody was talking about.
Didn't the guy get nominated? Didn't Ryan Gosling get nominated?
And then he performed a number last night, like a live number that everybody's buzzing about, that said might have been the highlight of the whole TV show.
Oh, that's male empowerment right there, Tim.
On Women's History Day.
Right, exactly. But yeah, so no, I need to see more movies. I need to get out more. I need to retire is what I need to do. But
you don't want to retire. You do not want to retire before the drama of this Steelers season is over, though. I mean, if you're going to go out, you're going to go out with a bang this year.
No. It is going to be frisky, but yeah.
All right, we'll be back next week for Madden Benz Unfiltered, another Madden Monday podcast. By the way, the Madden Monday podcast, we've got it up. Mark talked a lot about the Kirk Cousins angle. We did tape that thing in advance of the signing, which happened, Mark?
Yeah, that's too bad. Y'all just going to have to live with it.
That happened like 5 hours later. There's nothing I was going to bed when I saw that. I was going to stay up and catch the last bit of the Oscars. And then, like, the news moved that Russell Wilson I was watching it back on tape, and I see Wilson signed. I said, well, there goes all that work.
Actually, know what movie I watched last night was 4.5 hours. Once Upon a Time in America.
Oh, you watched
Leone's last film, De Niro.
Yeah.
James Woods. And I got curious because I've been watching it in bits and pieces, and I hate movies that are that long, but it was really good. And I didn't know this. When it was released back when, in 84, they cut like 90 minutes out of it for the theater and made it just unwatchable.
And then they put it back in?
It got terrible reviews, but now if you see the full cut, it's really good.
Same thing about Madden and Benz Unfiltered when we chop it up into little bits you don't like. There's a lot more rhythm and flow, the whole thing, for half an hour. So watch it. It's brought to you by Rush to Crush, the Rush to Crush Cancer Bike Ride.
That comparison you just made?
Yes.
I can hear Sergio Leone spinning in his grave.
Join us May 19th for the Rush to Crush Cancer Bike Ride. To register, go to rushtocrushcancer.org and help us in the fight against cancer. Join the ride.